Final preparations are underway to open a new mass vaccination site here in the Bay Area. The Oakland Coliseum is scheduled to open on Tuesday for anyone who qualifies in Tier B. That includes people who are 65 years and older, as well as essential workers in agriculture, food services, emergency services, education, and child care. Now, that Coliseum site is just one of the 100 federal vaccination sites that the Biden administration wants to open by the end of this month, but that does bring some more questions. So we want to bring in for some insight Mark Nouveau, who is a former FEMA coordinator. Mark, always great to have you. And certainly when we think of a federal operation of how these vaccination sites are run, it's a little bit of a different thing in terms of logistics and who's in charge.
Absolutely. Good morning to you, Claudia and Frank. In this particular case, what is said is that these are state-run mass vaccination centers, federally supported. But what that also means is there are an awful lot of agencies supporting FEMA, HHS, Health and Human Services, CAL FIRE, Cal OES, Office of Emergency Services, just a number of agencies coming together to meet the president's goal of 100 mass vaccination centers in 30 days.
Now, we see a lot of different talk about bringing in that federal help. When we talk about support, one of the issues is supply, and there's only so much that we can do in terms of supply and how much has been ordered. I mean, I've seen some states saying we're going to put on hold these federal sites and these mass vaccination sites because what's the point of setting them up if we don't have any doses to give?
Absolutely. And supply logistics are the #1 issue across the board, whether they're federally supported mass vaccination centers or health plan centers or whatever they are. It's supply. Now, what the federal government has done is as of Thursday, they announced the purchasing of another 100 million doses. So what that equates to is the federal government through the Army has actually purchased 600,000 doses by contract through Pfizer and Moderna. And they have up until the end of July 2021 to be able to provide that. So you're going to see a ramp up of supply across the nation. And they've done that also by purchasing so the companies won't have to worry about income revenue coming in. Also, they've used the Defense Logistic Act to be able to prioritize the raw materials necessary to produce the vaccine.
You know, and that is good news. It does feel like as we're talking about it and as we're talking about the lack of supply, there is some optimism that these purchases and the manufacturing and the resources are going to go to making this a little bit better of a situation. When you're looking at it just in terms of, you know, when we interview people, they want to say, here's how easy it was to make an appointment. Here's how fast I went through. Here's how easily, you know, they took my information. And when there's a low supply, it's kind of easy to roll out without it being too stressful, right? Because you can only bring in so many people. But if these shots, as you just mentioned, come in those numbers, having this be a smooth operation, we're not hearing stories about people having to call in, you know, the Chick-fil-A manager down the street to make sure that it went, you know, that people are getting in and out. Having this all lined up really well is critical, I think, to how people feel.
Absolutely. In particular to California, the governor's reached out to Salesforce to start an appointment system called My Turn. They rolled that out a couple of weeks ago, and they're having success with it, so that's good. There are certain areas where there is challenge. There's no question when you do something of this scale and this much logistics. Now, keep in mind what they're utilizing for the mass vaccination facilities is really the management system that we use across the country for disasters. They're using an incident action plan. They're using an ICS incident command system. So they're very familiar with integration of different agencies at the local, state, federal level. The California Department of Public Health is engaged here. So they're falling back on something they're very familiar with to utilize for the rollout of these particular sites and centers.
Well, if we can fall back on something familiar in a time when everything seems so unfamiliar and uncharted, then that is good news. Mark Nouveau, we have to leave it there. We are out of time, but we certainly appreciate your insight. Having that federal look and the big picture look certainly gives us a better idea of what we can expect as we move ahead. Thanks so much.
You're welcome, Claudia, and happy Valentine's Day to you.
You too. Always great to talk to you and see you.